Welcome to the desert of the real.
Family, this is your brother, Mr. Holipsism. It is 6 o'clock in the morning in New York City. We are leaving 2011. It's December 19th. A few more days until we're in 2012. The last time I did a show was when I announced that I wasn't going to do a show in a while. I said that the show was on hiatus, but I don't know. I just wanted to, I was up, I'm off, I'm usually working late night, but I'm off tonight, and I just wanted to talk about some things. The title of the show is Black Leadership, Mission Accomplished. And the description is, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I believe we have reached total and complete apathy. Total apathy in a dysfunctional Black African community is not some complex Rubik's Cube problem impossible to fix. Rather, it is a calculated design and goal. The small percentage of the population, the fail-safe mechanism or anomalies, cannot be eliminated and risk the system breaking down. That would be the so-called people with knowledge of self, African-centered, whatever. Our existence is tolerated and accepted as an inevitability of the system, but is controlled and neutralized by the apathy of the majority. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the thing that really resonates for me going into the year 2012 and ending 2011 is how I remember I did a video called "There's No Such Thing as Black Leadership," and it's one of my highest rated videos. I think it's probably second behind that Eminem crap, and that has been my main theme on my YouTube channel. My main theme on my Blog Talk Radio show is that there is no black leadership, and just like in Alcoholics Anonymous, until you acknowledge what the problem is, you aren't going to begin to fix it. And if we're walking around here thinking that we do have leaders and that we do have people that are accountable to us, that's the problem, people. They use the term sellout, like, oh, this person sold out. They sold out the black community. They did this, they did that. But when you really think about it, how can you sell out something that doesn't exist? I mean, really, we got these people. I mean, it's all a matter of personal choice. I mean, I choose to be a soldier for my people. I choose to be African-centered, and I choose to work in the interests of my people in rhetoric and action and everything else. But that's a personal choice. You can very well choose to be a bootlicking Negro. And you can choose to work against the interests of your people in the interests of the people that are in power. But it's all personal choice. And we can sit back and make a value judgment and say, well, Mr. Holipsism is a cool dude because he wants to work for his people, and Herman Cain is a bootlicking Negro because he chooses to work for white folks. But when you really break it down, what system is in place for black folks that either one of us is accountable to? Doesn't exist. It does not exist. So Herman Cain can do what he wants to do, and you may not like it, or you might like it, but the bottom line is that's his own personal choice. Mr. Holipsism can do what he wants to do. I can choose to work in the interest of my people or not. It's my personal choice. So basically, it gets back down to what I said we were a long time ago, and I've gotten some arguments on YouTube about this, but I don't see how anyone can argue with me. We are a scattered group of individualists aligned by mere aesthetics. We look alike, so then there's a loose association. You say black folks, whatever. We have a name that we refuse. Well, we refuse to identify with Africa in any way, shape, or form. We don't want ourselves called Africans. We don't want to have a name that identifies us with a land, a history, and a culture. We just want to be black. A name that really ties us to nothing. I guess it's an aesthetic, and it isn't really even that. You know what I'm saying? So, in the real sense, I understand. Before I get my Kemetic brothers coming at me, I understand the divinity of black. I understand that. What I'm speaking about is more political. What you calling yourself politically? When you say you're Chinese, you are attaching yourself to China. When you say you're Irish, you're attaching yourself to Ireland. When you say you're Italian, you're attaching yourself to Italy. Now and you see what happens when we tried to claim here and say we Native American. You see what the Cherokee did to us. So when are we going to, and I know that a lot of people don't want to attach themselves to Africa because of the old thing, Africans sold Africans into slavery. Well, like I said before, you seem to not have a problem with the white man's involvement in the slave trade. You seem to have forgiven him. So why don't you get over that crap? It happened so long ago. That's the story that, that's the talking point that everybody says. Oh, slavery was a long time ago. Well, which one is it? Is it slavery was a long time ago and we should get over it, which means you should get over the African involvement in involvement in slave trade too, or is it something that we should remember and never forget? I get confused because bootlicking Negroes go back and forth with their ideologies to the point where I don't even think they understand what the fuck they're saying. So if we're going to get over slavery, then you get over the African involvement in slavery, just like you got over the Europeans' involvement in slavery. But I don't want to take it to that on another tangent. I want to get back to the point that total apathy, total and complete apathy, desensitized, having our people desensitized to the point where nothing outrages us, nothing offends us. We are paralyzed by apathy. This is a goal of black leadership. Steve Coakley identified this years ago and he called it the Black Boule. And I don't want to get into all of that, but I will say that his basic premise is correct. The white supremacist system has set up black gatekeepers to assure that our people stay stuck in the same position that they're in. I can't put it any simpler than that. It is what it is. Because you would think after the civil rights struggle and the Black Power movement and all this other stuff that we would, in all these 60 years, finally establish some type of socioeconomic and political infrastructure in our communities. But we haven't. And is it because we don't have the intelligence to do it? No. Because we got the intelligence to work fiercely in the interests of white folks. So it's not a question of skills. It's not a question of, intelligence, education. I don't think it's any of that. What it is that you've had people have you leaping through obstacles, leaping through all types of roadblocks. And by the time you get through trying to leap and dodge and jump over and do all this stuff to get around the roadblocks, you're too freaking tired to do anything and establish anything. And that's what the system is for. It's checks and balances. I don't want to name names, but anybody that's calling themselves a black leader or a black representative, be it political, be it activist, be it anything, is a gatekeeper. I can safely say that at this point. You're a gatekeeper. Because if I had any substantial movement, if I had the ability to mobilize thousands of black folks or millions in some case, the first thing that I would do is call a conference with all of the heads of whatever organizations that are calling themselves black or African. Well, let's just deal with America. Black African Americans. I would call all these organizations that's in our community trying to get us to be a part of their organizations and their cause together. Speak to the heads and get together and say, you know what, we all live in this community. We need to establish some type of order in here, and we need to establish control over our community. Why hasn't this been done? Because, like I said multiple times, and I'll say it again, and I don't care who likes it or who gets tired of it, because I'm going to keep pointing to the fucking elephant in the room, pink elephant in the room, if nobody else does. These groups are like drug dealers on the block, and that's why I'm so, baffled as to why everybody's so offended by a drug dealer. I mean, the so-called conscious community is just like the drug game. You got your block, this one got their block, that one got their block, and as long as you don't sell weight on my block, we cool and we can coexist together. So we have the community separated and departmentalized into all of these different foreign ideologies, mostly. And in the meantime, there's no movement because there's no consolidation, there's no mobilization. Whenever a movement comes, you got the ego wants to be in charge, someone wants to be in charge, someone wants to be the man. This is what we're dealing with. And it's not by accident, it's by design. My first point in that, the Million Man March. I ain't going to stay too long on this, it's just to say this. The Million Man March, I don't even remember the year it happened. I ain't even trying to guess. What was it, 99? I don't even know. It's not relevant to me right now. I remember that I went, and I remember that it was good to see all the brothers together. For the brothers that was there on the lawn and the brothers that was there on the bus, it was great. It was a great experience, a memorable experience, even though I don't remember the date. But 10 years later, Million Man March 2, the same talking points that we were going to address in the Million Man March, we are reiterating again 10 years later at the Million Man March 2. And my philosophy on that is it was basically like a thermometer check. We got 1 million of y'all out there on the lawn 1 year. Let's see 10 years later how many of y'all is really down for this and is still thinking about this black power shit. Oh, shit. The numbers have dramatically decreased. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. And as far as the Nation of Islam is concerned, you have Malcolm X and you have Khalid Muhammad, two people that was probably the most influential people in terms of membership, getting membership into the Nation of Islam, and both of them are dead. I'll just leave it at that. Number 2, voting and the Barack Obama hustle. Black folks are the only people who do not require a representative to actually represent them. I've actually had arguments with brothers and sisters about this. They tell me, you don't have to live in the neighborhood that you represent. You can live in the suburbs, you can live somewhere else, but then when you come to you can also go to those suburbs and then come back to our neighborhood where you have absolutely no clue what's going on and represent us as a people. And nobody feels that that's odd. Nobody feels in any way that that's odd. We do not require our leaders or our representatives to actually represent us. We don't require for them to live amongst us. We don't require them to go through the same things we go through. None of that matters. All we require is for them to just be black. Just be black, speak some black pseudo-cultural, rhetoric, and we'll co-sign you. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that's actually what's going on. Barack Obama has backburned us and backburned us. And don't get me wrong, I never expected him to do anything in the first place. But my point is this. If the nigga can't do nothing for us, why are we representing him and backing him and putting him into office? If you put him into office and then somebody says, well, what about us? And they go, shh, don't listen, be quiet. He can't work for us. He got to work for white folks. He'll get to us eventually. Like he'll free Mamiya when he's after his 8-year term. Calm down. You're being selfish right now. Isn't that what Steve Harvey said? We are some real fucking jackasses, man. We are really jackasses. And then we think that by voting for a guy who's gonna take office, get a benefits package, and get Secret Service for the rest of his life, that somehow translates to empowerment for us. That's what we think. We don't require him to address us. We don't require him to say anything about us. As a matter of fact, black folks will get mad if you even think that Barack Obama can say something to address black folks. They'll backburner themselves. They don't even have to have Barack Obama do it. They'll say, whoa, y'all need to stop being selfish. He's the president for everybody, not just black folks. It's amazing how no other ethnic group feels that way. Do you think that Italians or Irish or Chinese or anybody else would accept somebody saying, listen, I want to represent you, but I can't really represent you. Like, I can put me in the office, but I can't really address your needs. But just by me being in office, you're going to feel better because I look just like you. Absolutely makes no sense for anyone else, but makes perfect sense for us. Then we got economics. We got other people coming into our community, setting up shop, and not getting taxed in any way. So my question is the community really ours, or are we just living there? We have commerce going back and forth, people opening up shops, conducting business. And then what really kills me is you go into these shops, right, of a fucking vegetable stand that's run by Koreans, ripping off the community. And God forbid, like you come to the cash register and you get shorted $1 that you make an issue about it, they'll fight you for that $1. Like, why don't you go into the I'm ripping off the black community fund and pull that $1 out? You know what I'm saying? Not only do you rip the fucking community off, but you go through the store and you're looking at the people of the community like they're a bunch of thieves. But you'll set up shop in our community. And we go for it. I don't even blame them. I blame us because we go for that bullshit. Now, let's discuss the so-called conscious community, which would be well, I won't say conscious community. I'll say the African-centered people. I want to get the people that's functional and the people that know what time it is. We would be considered the fail-safe mechanisms. And fail-safe mechanisms are inevitable in this system. There's always going to be a small contingent of people that know what time it is and fiercely fight against it. I represent that. That resistance is impossible to squash out completely. And it's also just it's grudgingly accepted by the people in power as a reality. They know what's going to happen. They know what's going to pop up. So the question is, how do you neutralize it? Well, you neutralize it with apathy. How do you mobilize an apathetic people? You can't. When people are apathetic and people are desensitized, people have no inspiration. They have no motivation to do anything. They exist like animals on an instinctual level, day by day, moment by moment, second by second. When you start talking about organizing and mobilizing and this and that, whatever, they look at you and they laugh. But they will support the systems that other people put in place and be fiercely loyal to it because we have been educated against our own interests. That's what we're dealing with. So the people that's African-centered, the only solution that you have, if you're trying to deal with the masses and get them to see your point of view, I really think that that's putting the cart before the horse. My argument has been you need to consolidate amongst yourselves and develop a community amongst yourselves and build from that. All it takes is just identifying a piece of land and saying, this is my manifest destiny, that I'm going to take this land and we're going to build this on this land. It's just, a group of people. It could be a small town. I know that there's towns for sale. Or you don't even have to buy the town outright. You can just move to a certain place and take it over. That's what other ethnic groups do. They move into a community, they keep moving in, and people keep buying up property until next thing you know, boom, it's a Chinese neighborhood. Boom, it's an Italian neighborhood. Boom, it's an Irish neighborhood. Boom, it's a Jewish neighborhood. There's so many ways that you can do it, but the bottom line is, instead of trying to appeal to these foreign ideologies and these Abrahamic religions, and since you have such a problem with all of these people, why fuck with them at all? Why go to war with Christians and go to war with Muslims and war with Hebrews and all the rest of these dudes? Why don't you just get amongst yourself as African-centered people and build something? I mean, the Muslims have a mosque. The Christians have a church. The Hebrews got a synagogue. What do the African-centered people have? YouTube? Blog Talk Radio? When are we going to get together amongst each other and build something? But that's what the reality is to that. We are counted and we're neutralized by apathy. Now, what's the solution? Well, since we don't have any organized groundswell, any what's the term I'm looking for? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Any grassroots movement on the ground level. The only thing you can do as the African-centered individual, other than trying to connect with other African-centered individuals, because that's what you really need to do. If you're an African-centered person, you need to be connecting with other African-centered people, and hopefully networking, communicating, and building consensus with them. We need to squash, bootleg and Negro talking points, which is fairly easy. I've been doing that for like 2 years on YouTube. And we need to build a consensus amongst each other. If we're centered around Africa, that's a great consensus. If we consider ourselves African people, that's a great consensus. Now all we need to do is discuss strategies and tactics. We need to identify and make our community an actual tangible community with coordinates. I want to be able to get to the conscious community on my GPS system. If I can't do that, then it doesn't exist. It's just a vague abstraction. It's fairly easy to squash the talking points and to build consensus, because all you have to do is point out the obvious and the inevitable. The bootlicking Negroes have no solutions. It's not like the community is going in a progressive way somewhere else and we are trying to pull it in our way. The community is going down. It's going down. And I can get into more specifics about the economics, but I'm not going to do that right now. All I want to say is this. We keep focusing on the sheep instead of focusing on the shepherd. And I've had people argue this point up and down with me, but the bottom line is it doesn't make any sense. If the sheep are scattered in the field, you have to go to the shepherd. You cannot take a bunch of people in street clothes and play the New York, well, I mean, you might be able to play the New York Giants now because they suck, but you cannot play, the Baltimore Colts, perhaps. You know what I'm saying? You can't play the Buffalo. You can't play a decent team in the NFL or even a bad team in the NFL with guys with a bunch of street clothes, with no coach, no defensive, no coordinator, no offensive coordinator, no plays, no training, no practice, and just show up. And by the power of your individualism, you are going to beat this team with a bunch of other people that you have no connection to. You don't even have the same uniform on. The concept is ridiculous to even think that makes sense. It doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form or on any planet. The people who know what time it is have got to get their act together, and they have got to consolidate They got to mobilize. Before they mobilize, they have to build a consensus amongst each other. They have to be in communication with one another, which means you have to network with one another. Because I have little time to talk on my channel about white folks. I really don't. I have little time to talk on my channel about Muslims and Christians and Hebrews and all this New Age shit and all these New Age philosophies and all these offshoot groups and all this other stuff. Listen, we need to get centered. And if you have a group of people that's saying that they centered, then you have to build something. Because like I said in my YouTube video, do not listen to the conscious community. I will stand by that. Until there is a conscious community, no one should be listening to the conscious community. No one. It doesn't exist. It's a vague abstraction. It's like money based on nothing. It's just an abstraction. It's a concept. But it doesn't actually exist in any tangible form, especially on a national level, which is what we need to be thinking if we're here in America. We need to be thinking national, and then after we've mastered that, we need to start thinking international. And we don't have to do them one after the other. We can do them both at the same time. But that should be our mindset, a national mindset and an international mindset. And that's all I got to say. Oh, I see my people are called. Nice. Thank you for listening. I'm not going to bring you in because I just wanted to rant on this show, so I'm not going to have any callers. But peace to Shamika, peace to Mac. And what I got 2 minutes left. Well, I'm going to end the show right now. These might be forthcoming, in the future. I didn't plan on doing this until like maybe an hour ago. I said I would, do a show on it and put it out there. So it might be another one coming or it might be a long lapse, but catch me on YouTube. My username is Mr. Holipsism, and I will holler at you good people later. Peace. Oh, and let me leave out with my old classic outro. Y'all remember this.
Stay black. Get the woman up off these streets. Save that black woman's baby and boss up with your weak ass. Black power.